Hey, Tim Unkert here, and in this video, I'm going to be working on this new project that I have, which is a web domain I have, which is PreCalcGenius.com. And as you may know, in my former life, I used to be a math teacher, so I'm going to be building a full stack app, fully functional web page, based with the stack's going to be HTML, CSS, JavaScript, PHP, and MySQL. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to start to build it. The tools that I'm using to build it on this or for this video are Visual Studio Code, which is a free text editor, and then I'm building it on a cheap Chromebook that I got from Walmart, just to show you it doesn't really matter what you build this on. I do have my settings right now where I have 2 gigabytes swap enabled, so that means that I can allocate 2 more gigabytes to my RAM if necessary. It's 4 gigabyte RAM base, so it's a very minimal machine, very inexpensive. So I can get up to 6 gigabytes. I've had it, so I've gotten it up to 8, but it takes it away from the memory. It's only a 32 gigabyte solid state drive. So anyways, that's a little bit about the tech that I'm using. So I've got Visual Studio Code up, and I've got this little README I made for what we're going to do. And first I'm going to make a landing page with Bootstrap. And then we're going to break the landing page into PHP sections. I'm going to do a few of these sections, and we're going to create randomized, this should be randomized problem pages. So one thing that I had an issue with at the start of the pandemic with students is even with some of the well-established sites out there or in math, they have problem banks where they might have 30 problems in a problem bank on a particular topic, but still that's only 30 problems. So what this is going to do, this program, is we're going to create randomized problems using random number generators in JavaScript, and you might have like 10,000 potential random problems. So, and then in step 4, you're going to evaluate the student's score on pages. So it's going to score the students' responses. It's going to have multiple choice responses. And then finally, it'll send the scores to a database, which is a MySQL database using PHP. Potential stuff I'm going to do with this project is to create member-only pages and login and create a Twitter feed, etc. So the only framework we're going to be using is Bootstrap, which is the CSS framework. So that's what we're going to be doing, and let's go and get started, okay? All right, so let's open up the folder. Let me save this. And let's create an index.html. And also have just a style.css, which we might use. And finally, for this opening page, we'll hold off on creating the script.js. So we're going to start with my index.html page. And I'm just going to get a general framework using Emmet. I can expand that and get a little framework here. We do want a description. So for the description, I'm going to say this, whoops, didn't want to hit that. This website helps your student become a pre-calculus genius. Cool. And this is going to be the home page. For PreCalc Genius, I can spell, genius.com. Cool. All right, so now we want to have a top section here with a nav bar. So let's just make a little comment that that's what we want on the top. Okay, and so let's go to the Bootstrap documentation. So I'm going to pull up my browser here, go to Bootstrap, and let's go to Bootstrap 5, the introduction. And for production value, just to produce this as quickly as possible, I'm going to use the CDN So I'm going to copy the CSS, just make a comment that this is Bootstrap CSS. And we'll just paste that in. Okay. And we also want to have the custom CSS below that. So I'll do a link to that. And that goes to style.css. Oops. Okay. All right. And at the bottom of the body, we do also want to have the JavaScript bundle for the Bootstrap. Okay. And I changed this to, I have this as index.html. I'm going to actually rename it as index.php in a moment. So hold on one sec. So this is going to be the Bootstrap JS. Okay. All right, so I copied that, paste that in there. And let me save this. Okay, and then let's click on this and rename it. I want it to be index.php. Okay, so now it's renamed as index.php. Okay. All right, and so we got that. What I'm going to do now is open up a terminal and just type PHP capital dash capital S localhost 8000, and it started a server running at localhost 8000. So let's go to that, make sure that's running. Okay. So far we've got nothing. Let's put something up there like, I don't know, hello world. And just make sure that the server is running properly. Let's refresh. Hello world. Okay, so we got the Bootstrap, and it's got the Bootstrap hooked in because you can see the styling coming in here. So that's all good. So we've now got that set up. All right, so I'm going to actually get rid of that. Okay, and let's go back to the Bootstrap documentation here and go to components. And we're going to go to nav bar here. And I'm going to go down to this one and copy it. Okay. Okay, and we'll just paste that in. And then I'm going to actually highlight this stuff up to here, because sometimes when you paste it in, the formatting is a little bit off. Just going to tap that over, get the formatting good. Okay. All right, so we've got our nav bar here. Now, the name of the site is going to be PreCalcGenius, so we want that to be PreCalcGenius. And I just want that to go to index.php. So we want to go to that. And then down here, I want, so let me show you what this looks like so far. Let's go up here and refresh. Okay, so we got this menu here, and I want this stuff to move over to here, and I want to bring it in a little bit. But all right, so what I'm going to go up here is go to this UL with the class navbar nav and add a class ms auto. Okay, and let's save that and refresh this page, and you'll see it moves this stuff over here. Now we don't want home features pricing. Typically instead we'd still have home. Okay, that's going to point to index.php, and then we're going to have complex numbers. We're going to have matrices. And I'm going to take this thing out, the disabled thing. And so I want a list item with a class of nav dash item. And within that, I want a link with the class of nav dash link. Okay, so let's just format that. Okay, and we're not going to have this go anywhere just yet. And I'm just going to call this vectors, and I'll save that. And now we're going to look for let's take a look, let's refresh. And so we have home, complex numbers, matrices, and vectors. I want to move this stuff in so it's not mashed up against the side. The way I can do that with Bootstrap is just put a div with a class of container up top. And I'm going to go down here. And we'll close out this div. Okay, and then if I go up here, I want to highlight all this stuff and just move it over. Okay, so just keep my indexing nice and formatted. Let's actually get the sidebar out of there so you can see it a little bit better. All right, so that's our menu. So we'll end that top section. Okay, and then we're going to have the card section. So let's begin our card section. Okay, and so I want, in Bootstrap, I want a row, and then I want 3 columns. So it's going to be column -lg-4. Multiply that times 3, and in each of those, I want a card. Okay, and let's tab and expand that out. Okay, so now we want to take a look at the card documentation. So let me just save this for a moment and go back to here and go look at the cards. Go down here. That's not what I want. That's not really what I want. I kind of like this. And I kind of like, the card with the title at the top, and then, something in there, and then a topic. So I'm going to do this. So we're going to have, inside of that, we're going to have a card header. And I'll have some text, something like complex numbers for the topic. And then below that, let's see, we want to have a card body. Okay, so we're going to have a card body. They're using a 5th level header, class card title, plus a paragraph with a class of card text. Okay, so we got that. Let's call this title Imaginary Numbers. And we'll call this, we'll give a description, learn about imaginary numbers and their uses in real life. Test your ability to solve questions with imaginary numbers. Okay, so I'm going to save that. Let's go back up to here. Let's refresh. So you'll see I moved in the menu, and I've got these cards showing up like this. I want the cards not all the way up against the side also, so I'm going to wrap this in a container as well. Okay, and I'll go here, down to here. All right, and so we're wrapping that, and then we go up to here, and let's just indent the stuff over. Okay. All right, and then with our, so we can refresh that and see that that'll move that stuff in. Okay, so now we want to have this button. So that's going to be anchor link with a class of button and button primary. Okay. So we'll go here, anchor link, the class of BTN and a class of BTN primary. And I'm not going to have this go anywhere just yet, but I'm going to have this say something like, I don't know, practice now, something like that. Okay, let's refresh that. So practice now. Okay, that looks pretty cool. Now, to make these cards pop out a little bit, I'm going to go over here, go to my style.css, and do some custom styling. So I'm going to isolate the class called card, and I want to have box shadow. We're not going to have this, eliminate this stuff. But we're going to have a box shadow of 3 pixels, 3 pixels, 4 pixels, and then use the color 333. And we're also going to have a border of 1 pixel solid, and then that color through. Oops, I didn't hit that too soon. Color 333. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do also is I'm going to use a pseudo class. So I'm going to, when I hover over the card, and this is going to give it like a popping out effect. I'm going to increase the box shadow, and it's going to be now 5 pixels, 5 pixels, 6 pixels for the blur, and then 333. Okay, like that. And we'll save that and refresh. Okay, so now you'll see when I hover over it, there's kind of like increases the shadow of it. So it kind of pops out. All right. So we got that popping effect going on. So we've got that. Now let's take a look back at our README. And so we also have complex number operations and the complex conjugate. Okay, so we're going to also have some other cards. So again, H5 with a class of card title, plus a paragraph of a class of card text, plus an anchor with a class of BTN and BTN primary. And we'll tab those out. Okay, so we're going to say complex number operations and give a description, something like practice problems, adding, subtracting, and let's say multiplying complex numbers. Okay, and then again, this isn't going to go anywhere. Put something here like practice now. Woo! Okay, and finally, then we're going to have another one here. Again, H5 class of card title. Plus, whoa, if I could type E, plus paragraph with a class of card text, plus an anchor with class of BTN and BTN primary. Expand that out. Okay, and then we're going to have complex conjugate here. Something like use the complex conjugate in practice problems. And again, a link and something like practice now. Okay. All right. So let's now refresh. And okay, so these look a little different. So the padding is off here. I know why. Okay, so I forgot the card header and then the card body. So we got to wrap those. So again, we're going to have here, we're going to have a card header. With complex numbers in there. Okay, and I'm going to copy this and bring it down here and paste that in. Okay, and then we want this. Actually, I want to paste this in, move this over. I want to have card body wrap this other stuff. And so do that. Okay, and this stuff here will just, nope, sorry. This stuff here we'll just tab over. Okay, we're going to wrap this one in a div called card body as well. Okay, and move that over. Okay, and save. All right, now refresh. Okay, so now they look a bit more normal, but they're not all the same height. And I want them to all be the same height. So I'm going to go to my custom CSS and let's give them a height, let's say 250 pixels. And save it, and now refresh. Okay, so now they're all the same height, except the buttons are all in different spots. So let's fix that. All right, so we'll do a card, the button, isolate that. The position is going to be absolute. And in the card, we've got to put a position of relative. Okay, save that. Get some caffeine. All right, and refresh. And we haven't given anything yet, so it's not going to move it yet. But from the bottom, let's just say 4%. And let's give this a width of 92%. Okay, so now that looks a lot better. It scans more across, and the button is near the bottom, which I like. Okay, and maybe we can move it up a little bit from the bottom. Let's move it up to, let's say, 8%. Okay, that's decent. I might play with that a little bit more, but that's how I'm moving my cards up here. Okay, so this is a good start, but I want to add a few more things. So right now I'm going to pause the video and add a few more cards and some sections down here so we can get the homepage looking a little bit nicer. All right, so stay tuned and I'll be right back. Hi, so welcome back. So I've added some other topics besides complex numbers, and I've added these titles up here. So I have complex numbers, a few complex number topics, matrices, a few matrix topics, and then vectors, a few vector topics. This is not exhaustive by any means, but what I'm going to do now is just have a simple footer, and then we'll end part one. And then in part two, I'm going to break this apart and have an includes file. So certain things we want to do is like include this menu here. So we can include it in one file. And then when we build our site through the different pages, if we have this menu on all these pages and we want to change it, we don't have to go through every single file and change it. We just change it in one file. And then I'm going to also take this main part, break it apart, compartmentalize it. And the footer, I'm also going to compartmentalize. Okay, so let me just pause this one sec. All right, so I'm going to create a footer. So let's go back to our file here. This is ending the main section. Okay, and we'll begin the footer. Now this is a very simple site, as you can see, but the complexity is going to come when I end up building the random problems in the site and have the database and that kind of stuff. All right, so I'm going to have a footer here, and then we're going to have a paragraph with a class of text center. And then within that paragraph, we're going to say copyright, and then we'll use a little bit of PHP. So I'm going to say echo, and then we'll say date and the year, and then we will close out the PHP. Okay, and so that should give us the year. And then I'll say Timothy Unkert, all rights reserved. Okay, and hit Control Save and refresh. We have an issue. I'm using the wrong date function, so let me just reference that. Date PHP. Okay, so I'm looking this up in the documents. Let's make sure I'm getting this right. Okay. So we want to look echo date. All right, it should. What did I have here? Echo date. Oh, yeah. All right. Sorry about that. There we go. So we say copyright 2021, Timothy Unkert, all rights reserved. So that'll give you whatever date you want. I'm also going to do the copyright symbol here. So let's just do copy. Okay. And I'll save it. And so we've got this copyright with a nice little copyright symbol 2021, Timothy Unkert, all rights reserved. Very simple, basic page, okay, for starters. But this is going to get more complex as it goes along with this project. I probably will have like separate different sections of this and going to things like that. But for this video, I just want to show you a very basic setup in Bootstrap. And then from there, we're going to break it apart into different little files with PHP in section 2. I'm going to stop this for section 1, and then I'll join you again in section 2. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please like and subscribe and hit the bell for notifications, as it really helps the channel grow.